Welcome back to the Rock and Blues Experience. Today it is all about a band whose existence came into being after the crazy world of Arthur Brown split up in 1969 and Vincent Crane and Carl Palmer went off to put together a band who would become Atomic Rooster. They would go on to produce, 5 classic albums in 3 years and become home as well to some iconic names, including the likes of Chris Farlow and Ginger Baker, whilst being guided all the time by that maverick genius that was Vincent Crane. In 1971, they recruited a hotshot by the name of Steve Bolton. He came in for Made in England, and Steve has been the guiding light over the last years as the band have been touring extensively around Europe. And there is now the exciting news they are preparing to release a first new studio album in 42 years. It is called Circle the Sun. I've heard it, and it maintains that epic sound for which they became known, and fans will love it. Steve and drummer Paul Everett are going to be joining me today. Now, just a quick reminder that you can update yourself with all of the latest content on the website, www.therockandbluesexperience.com, also on YouTube and Facebook. And the audio version of the show is still available on all streaming providers. Now, looking ahead over the next few weeks, Steve Hackett's going to be joining me, as well as another prog legend, John Lees of Barclay James Harvest, who are back themselves with a new album mid-October. It is called Relativity. Before all of that, Dave Ellefson and Jeff Scott Soto were on the show recently. Now, they've just put out their second collaborative album. It is called Unbreakable, and it is one of the best full-on rock albums of this year. Dave was also part of Ozzy Osbourne's final live show in July. And in this clip, he looks back on the day and describes what it was like to be part of a day that will never be forgotten. What was the atmosphere like from a musician's point of view?
Dave has a great answer for this. I love it. I know where Dave is going to answer this because I've already heard this answer. It's fantastic.
I hope I remember the answer. Shit, no, I remember
the way you kind of corralled the day. It was such an amazing response to. I felt like I was there when David replied to that exact question a few times already.
Yeah, I mean, look, it was exactly as you saw it online, exactly as it was on the live stream. It felt like that, and it's. When you're there for celebrating someone's life, which is what it was. Sure. It was a celebration of life. We knew the peril that Ozzy was facing with his illness. They had been very transparent about that. So, but to know that this was going to be the last time we see Ozzy with his band, with both of his bands, and with Black Sabbath, the fact that I love the fact that with Black Sabbath, they went back and they got the OGs, all 4 of the original guys, to be back in the room together. They started with those 4, they ended with those 4. I thought that's the way it's done. They set a new gold standard of how to do a farewell, how to do that, which is great. Also, I think when you're there as a charity, where all men are equal, all men and women are equal backstage, on the stage. Clearly Black Sabbath and Ozzy were the headliners. Quite honestly, the songs were the headliners. Those songs were bigger than all of us, and are going to live beyond all of us, as well as our own songs. So suddenly there's no. I thought I was headlining. Where's my limo? Where's my dressing room? All these kind of things that can happen, when you get a lot of, the big leaguers in the same room together. There was none of that. I mean, and everybody was such a fan of everybody else, and we're all friends. Yeah. We all grew up together,
That's the line I was waiting for.
Yeah, we're all friends together. We all shared the same record collection together, to talk to Guns N' Roses about their choice of Sabbath tunes, to, bro down with Pantera and Rival Sons and Black Sabbath, and, and Steven Tyler shows up. It's like, Steven's just a member amongst members. He's just another singer on the stage. You know what I mean? It's like, this guy's one of the most famous people here in the place. And next thing you know, a Rolling Stones out on stage. You're like, geez, it's like, it just doesn't stop coming. And everybody was just a member amongst members, and that, I've never been part of something like that was that awesome. I mean, look, when we did the Big Four, to Metallica's credit, they made it feel like that too. They made it feel like we were all together. We were all in it together. We were all brothers who grew up, and we were all there, as one. I've had that experience with them, and again, Metallica, they know what they're doing.
It's a family affair, yeah.
Yeah, and the same thing happened. I guess because we were there for almost a week doing the rehearsals, we were there hanging out. People from the A group would come see the B group, and we'd all hang out together and sit and bullshit and watch each other practice because we were all going, I remember Robert Trujillo was there, when I was doing Sweet Leaf, and it's like he played with Ozzy, and I'm going, fuck. I was kind of looking at him like, is this right? This is, fuck it, I got to grab a pick. I'm a pick player. Why am I trying to play like geezer? Give me a freaking pick. I'm David Ellison. This is how I do it. And that's what they want. They don't want you to be somebody else. They want you to be you, and so it was just a lot of great, a lot of these guys had played with, Adam Wakeman, Mike Borden, Rudy Sarzo. So these guys had played with Ozzy and Sabbath and these guys, but everybody was there, to just be as one. And that's, no matter how we go in, we come out as one voice. And I thought that was a beautiful thing.
And you know what? It was the perfect ending to the perfect day was the family moment backstage when you saw Kelly and Sid getting engaged, and Ozzy's razor sharp wit where you can, I can't believe you think you're marrying my daughter.
I know. It was just
she blocked David from getting his photo with Ozzy. The last photo he could have taken with Ozzy.
He waved me over, and he looked great. He was just beaming after the show. He saw me, waved me over. We're talking for a couple of seconds, for I don't know, a few not minutes, because everybody wants a piece of the guy, So I was just just talking very kindly as performers who had just done a gig together. You know what I mean? It was like, hey man, good set. It was really cool. It was great. You pulled that. It was great. You nailed it. You really did a good job. And then next to Jack's like, all right, everybody, he's whistling. Everybody keep it down. And I was like, oh, fuck, now what's going on? Next thing you know, Sid drops to his knee. There's the proposal. It was just one just unbelievable gold nugget after another, falling out of the sky on that one. And it was just, it just really was a surreal thing to be part of,
That was a great feature that with David and Jeff, and you can watch it in full on the website, YouTube, or Facebook pages, and again on all streaming providers. Damon Johnson is currently with Lynyrd Skynyrd, of course, having taken over full time after the passing of Gary Rossington. His big break came when he got the chance to audition for Alice Cooper. The timing, though, of the audition couldn't have been any worse. You auditioned for Alice when Eric left, and it's very close to that anniversary because it was August the 26th of that year. So what we are now, August the 28th. So August 26th, you auditioned for that. And I love this because you're actually sat in the hospital with your now partner, your wife, after the birth of your first son with her, Gabriel, I think his name is, and you're learning your tracks on an iPod. People will sit there and think, iPod, I remember those. What are those? Is that's that? Yeah. So you're sat there learning tracks. You got a baby and your wife is there and Alice is on the horizon. I mean, again, another great time.
That's a true story. That opportunity would not have happened without my old friend Eric Dover. He had put my name forward to the Alice camp. And my two favorite stories about that, Tim, and I pledge to be brief. You're correct. I was sitting in the hospital room, my infant son in the crib, my wife in the big bed, just having given birth. I've got my headphones and my iPod. I'm learning all these Alice Cooper songs. I was a fan of Alice's, but not as deep a fan as I was some of the other bands we've discussed. So I was having to pay attention. Gabriel's born on the Tuesday, the 24th. I practice at the hospital the 25th. I get on an airplane the 26th. I fly straight to Los Angeles, get in the cab, straight to the rehearsal space. I get out of the cab, and there's three of the other guitar players that were also auditioning. I see them standing or outside. And Tim, they all look like they're going to a Motley Crue video shoot, to be in the band. Like they're in full makeup and all these leather and studs. And I'm in a pair of Levi's and a t-shirt, and I've got my Les Paul in a gig bag and my Chuck Taylor sneakers on. And my first thought was, well, I blew it. Nobody told me I had to dress up for Halloween just to come and do this audition. So they very graciously let me be the last guy to audition because I had flown across the country. Everyone else was in Los Angeles. So I go in, I meet Ryan Roxie, Chuck Garrick, Eric Singer is there to play drums. And Alice's daughter, Calico. Alice wasn't there, Tim. He was in Phoenix shooting a television commercial. So they were videotaping the auditions.
Right. Incredible.
And it was all happening really fast. So I'm just I plug into the amp and I had a couple of pedals and all right. I'm like, well, what do you guys want to play first? And Eric goes, well, how about No More Mr. Nice Guy? I go, cool. So I play the riff and somebody else sang lead, and then I get on the mic to sing backup vocals, and I'm watching Eric and kind of locking in, and it's all feeling good. Well, we end the song, and Eric Singer jumps up out of his chair, Tim. He throws his drumsticks on the ground. He goes, that's the guy right there. That's the guy. He goes, you guys have wasted my time today bringing in all these, I can't remember what term he used, but poser, he's like, man, some of those guys couldn't even tune their guitar. Now this guy walks in, he's just come cross country, giving birth to a new baby, and he's playing in the pocket. He can sing great background vocals, and I'm just like, what?
It's brilliant.
So I have extra love for Eric Singer for that.
That was David Johnson. It was, again, another great conversation, and you can listen and watch all of it on the website, YouTube, and Facebook. And do look out for the return of Brother Kane, his first band. They're back in November with a new album. It was written and recorded by Damon and longtime friend and collaborator Marty Friedrichsen. And so to Atomic Rooster, who are back with an album which should have the fans of the band clamoring to get their hands on it. It is in the finest traditions of what the band stood for, and I can tell you, it will not disappoint anyone. Steve Bolton and drummer Paul Everett join me to talk about the new album, to look back on that classic era in the 1970s and ahead to an exciting future. Now, there was a very famous quote, right, that I came across, and it said basically, I have a great respect for the past, and if you don't know where you've come from, you don't know where you're going. And that seemed very apt for me here on the eve of your new album release, because you remain true to the roots of this great musical institution, which is Atomic Rooster, and yet it doesn't sound old hat.
Great. Well, I couldn't have put it better myself, but I will do. We were talking about how this, how I joined Rooster in the first time, first place in 1971. You know, I'd come from Manchester with my band. The band split up straight away, as they do it. And I answered an ad in the paper for Atomic Rooster in the music press. Bands used to advertise then, you know, like top bands would advertise and then put their phone number. That wouldn't happen now, but it happened then. And I got the job. I don't know how I got the job. I was a rhythm player. That's my background, playing rhythm guitar. That's what I love to do, rhythm and funk. But so a friend of mine gave me a crash course in lead guitar, like over 2 days. And I was off around America with Atomic Rooster. I was in the band for 18 months. The first 2 months, Pete French was in the band, and then Chris Farlow. And of course, after 18 months, because I was young and flighty, you know, I decided that, you know, I wanted to go.
This is a fabulous time, isn't it? The era of the swinging 60s. And if you go back to your origins and those early days, right? And how that journey began. As with so many people growing up at that time, the importance of television and radio for introducing kids to music. You basically see Hank Marvin and that's it. And you, Paul, have been involved with playing with so many of these 60s bands as well over the years. So, you know, you must have built up this great repertoire of stories from the originals as well, like Chris Montez.
Oh yeah, playing with them guys, you know, they were. Well, there was nothing before them. They are the ground. They are the era of ground zero, and like being a young boy, being able to play with these guys, you know, was an education very, very quickly.
What did John Lennon say before Elvis? There was nothing.
Yeah, it is. It's that thing, you know. There was, you know, and then obviously being from like, you know, being from being from Liverpool, it's kind of, you know, again, obviously the Maisie beating and the Beatles and stuff like that, taking all that music, regurgitating it, making it better, you know, in a lot of cases. I'm just being exposed to that, you know, like, yeah, and then you can kind of see, you can follow that, like everyone can, you can follow the history timeline, how music develops into, you know, into things like Rooster and then beyond, you know, into heavier music and stuff like that. Tim,
you're right. I mean, although I joined Rooster in 1971 and we went straight to America, we did 2 back-to-back tours, 6-week tours. It was like, it must have been like, it was like still like the 60s, you know. I mean, it was just crazy. You did gigs, and there was none of this security at the side of the stage, although we were playing theatres. There was a whole bunch of people, girls, people chucking bags of weed on stage. It was just crazy. But for me, you know, like from up north, who had smoked a joint once, you know, and so like all of a sudden it's a baptism of fire, you know. I instantly became a god of hellfire, literally overnight, you know. And so I came back totally experienced, and I went back up north and saw my mates, and they thought I'd lost my mind, but which I probably had, but in a good way.
But they and you guys seem to you achieved so much as kids when you were developing into this talent. You know, so many aspiring musicians, for example, move from childhood to adulthood comes when you sign your first finance agreement, usually without your parents' permission, to buy your first instrument, which for you was the old Les Paul. And I'm sure it's got to be the same with you, Paul, as well.
Oh yes, I remember the first finance agreement. I bought my first 26-inch bass drum kit in gold sparkle from Sound Control in Manchester. It was the only place that had like big stock and would give me finance. Yeah. And I remember bringing it home and being like, "Where'd you get that from?" I borrowed it off Alex. It's Alex's.
I got my next door neighbour who played organ on a cruise ship to sign the agreement so I could buy my Les Paul. I just watched on YouTube. There's a lovely thing with Rick Beato talking at length to Dave Gilmour. Now I've run into Dave Gilmour a few times, but there's a lovely bit where his parents bought him for his 21st birthday or 18th birthday. They bought him a Telecaster and a fuzz box.
It's brilliant. And because what people don't remember, kids today especially, is having HP, right, or financing was not something that your parents would ever sign up to. Yeah, it was like a slight on the family name if you were you bought anything on the knock.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah. Getting on the never.
So your band, building up to that point, you have the puzzle, you have Wide Open. Were you aware at this time, when you were back into the 60s with these bands, were you aware of Rodney Cheeseman, of course, who became Vincent Crane?
Devil's Answer was in the charts. I think it got to number 2. But in the late 60s, I'm in Manchester. As a music fan, I used to go to Manchester University, not in there, but I went to the main hall there, the proper stage, and we saw all the visiting bands there. I saw lots of great bands appear. One of the bands I saw was The Crazy World of Arthur Brown, and it was fantastic. It was unbelievable. It must have been. It was Carl Palmer on drums and Nick Graham on bass, and Vincent Crane on Hammond organ, and he'd melted all the keys with a blow lamp or something to melt them, and they would look really truly gothic. And he had a monk's habit on, and I'm stood there going, man, this is just unbelievable. I remember it. Never for 1 minute did I think in my tiny mind that I would be playing with him in like 3 years hence. You know what I mean? But that was.
But the other thing that looks even quaint today, right, Paul, is where, Rodney Cheeseman obviously is not going to be a name of a rock star, is it? So he decides, it's got to be Vincent Crane. So he takes Vincent from Vincent Price and Crane because it was how Arthur Brown used to arrive on stage.
Yeah.
Was it really? Not because Vincent looked like a crane, which he did. It's Atomic Crane, couldn't it?
I don't know. I think today Rodney Cheeseman would be more of a stage name than Vincent Crane.
Absolutely fantastic, wouldn't it? So he leaves Arthur Brown along with Carl Palmer, and they set up Atomic Rooster, which is one of the all-time great band names. I mean, it is just incredible. And again, that simply came from a roadie who was nicknamed Atomic Rooster. Yeah. I mean, you can spend hours looking through books thinking there must be a story behind this. It's got to have something to do with some substance abuse.
I don't know that story, but yeah.
That's the story. It was one of Arthur Brown's roadies that was called Atomic Rooster.
It's incredible. And so you answer the ad in Melody Maker looking for a lead player. You spent 2 days listening to Joe Walsh and the James Gang learning lead licks to get the gig.
To get the gig, yeah. And I always remember the first gig. So I got the gig, and then we had a tour. We're going to America straight away. And I always remember the manager, Robert Masters, he worked for. They were above the Marquee Club in Denmark Street, as it was then. And they were shysters. I'm under no illusion. I remember it rehearsing. And Robert came round with a visa application form, and I had to fill it in. And it came to the question, have you or have you not got a criminal record? Well, I had a criminal record, but it was only a misdemeanor. I got a lift in a stolen car with some friends of mine. And then we transferred to another car, and we got caught by the old bill. I was the only one over the age of 17, so I got my head shoved down the toilet at Bootle Street Police Station. And yeah, I got my dabs taken. I got a £5 fine, so I've got a criminal record. So when it came to that, I said to Robert, I said, this, he said, just give it to me, dear boy. I know he went, no. Yeah, I knew that he would put no, So the first gig we did, we had the American tour coming up, but we did a UK gig in Plymouth.
The Van Dyke Club.
Yes, a huge club with a massive stage, And I got picked up in a Rolls Royce, we got taken to the station, and we went down first class on this train with members of the press, like Record Mirror and various people down to and I had a small Fender amp, like a piggyback Bassman, because I thought that's what you had to have. I didn't realize this was actually a bass amp, and it was crap, but for the rehearsals I used an AC30 I borrowed, but I had my Fender amp. So I get in the club, we go in the club, and it's packed, because Rooster are number 2 in the charts, absolutely packed. And I look at the stage, and I think, shit. And in the middle is the biggest drum kit I've ever seen in my life, like a double Heyman kit with 26-inch bass drums, the whole deal. And then at the Hammond organ side, 3 high-watt stacks like this, and then 2 acoustic bass cabinets. And at my side of the stage, my little amp on a chair. My little amp's on a chair, Thank God it wasn't on beer crates, but, it was on a chair. So we did the gig, and I did not hear a note I played the whole night. I couldn't hear it above the rack.
Didn't they? The story goes that the Record Mirror Sounds absolutely slaughtered it, and Vincent actually was so upset that he got what was called a right to reply. So they gave him apparently they gave him a right to reply. So he actually had an interview 2 weeks later that was printed where he said, look, the fans loved it, but this is a new band. What are you doing? It's not supposed to be, a fully gelled unit. We're learning, we still haven't played together.
I was learning, believe me, I was learning day by day. But we went to America, and that was a great learning curve for me. That was, by the time the end of the second tour, we were just like, I knew how to command the stage. I knew what to do. So it was just great,
See, the names of the people that you toured with back over then, Alice Cooper, Cactus. You talk about great drummers, by the way, Paul. Then Carmine Appice.
Yeah.
I mean,
him and his brother are both very
Vinny.
different drummers, but both phenomenal players.
Incredible. And so, how did a kid out of Manchester or out of Lancashire, and rather, how did you get on sampling the high life of being a rock star in the States back then? I mean, the experiences.
I got to give it a go.
It's a miracle in it, Steve.
I got into all sorts of trouble. We had 2 nights of the Whiskey A Go-Go, 3 nights, I think. I missed the first one completely. I was out tripping my bollocks up in the Hollywood Hills, And then, it was just, it was great,
Steve, who gave you a lift to the gig?
I bought a guitar while I was there on Sunset Strip at Hollywood Guitars, and I bought a Strat. Subsequently got nicked. It was a bit of a dog whip, and I was out there because I saw that everyone thumbed a lift on Sunset Boulevard. So I went out and I got a plastic guitar in a plastic bag, and I'm thumbing a lift. And this car pulled up with these 2 guys who were obviously high as kites and drunk and stoned. And one of the guys was the drummer from the Buffalo Springfield, Dewey Martin.
Yeah.
They kind of kidnapped me, and we went up in the hills, and it was that 24-hour party. And I thought, shit. Oh, I should have been playing at the Whiskey Go-Go last night.
What happened then when you rolled back into band camp the following day? Were they like, well, where the fuck did you go to?
I don't know. I think I got away with it. I don't know what happened. Just rolled out the car onto the strip, Sorry.
What was your first experience of meeting and seeing Alice Cooper then? Because this was something that was completely out there, really.
Yeah, we were signed in America to Elektra Records, and Jack Holtzman was the head honcho, and he was great, and he had his young son with him, and we went to he took us to see Rick and me to see Alice Cooper when he was doing the thing with the guillotine on stage, and we were kind of in a backstage area. There's a big sort of area. And Alice was running to the stage, the band had gone, and Alice saw Rick and me, and he came over, he did said, Atomic Rooster, guy, I saw you guys last night. Amazing, And Jack Holtzman was with his young son, who came up on Facebook a few weeks ago. Now he's now grown up, So I just said, "Hi, do you remember me? I was in Atomic Rooster." He said, "Bloody hell, I remember that. I remember that incident with Alice Cooper and my dad." It was Jack Holtzman is the man, He signed Arthur Lee and Love and the Doors and the whole deal,
So you when you get back to the UK, you're taking part in this charity event. I mean, part of it was to save the Oval cricket ground, the concert for Bangladesh. I mean, a bizarre venue, the Oval, for a gig, but you can still see video of that on YouTube, and there's still plenty of reviews about it. So what was the day like for you? Because, it's The Who, is Rod Stewart and the Small Faces, there's America playing, there's Linda Spot. I mean, what a lineup of bands.
So I'm sleeping in some friend's flat in Muswell Hill in North London. I know nothing about this. We come back. I know nothing about jet lag. All I know is that when I come back, one of the guys whose flat it was a guy called James Litherland, who I went to school with, and he came down from Manchester a year before me and he ended up in Colosseum. So James, he played lead guitar and vocals for Colosseum. Great, he was in my band in Manchester. So I got them tickets and everything, but I know we were on stage at 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock something in the afternoon. I woke up at 4 o'clock in Muswell Hill on the sofa, and I thought, and I couldn't quite get my head together. I thought, shit. So to get to the Oval, I had to run up to Highgate Tube Station with my guitar. They had my guitar, and I ran up there, and I got on the tube down to the Oval, ran round to the Oval. I had a guitar shoved in me, and there are pictures of us there, and I'm like a Chinese. Well, I can't say that. I've got, I look like I've just woken up, and I'm shoved on stage. I'm plugged into Pete Townshend's high watt stacks, and we did the gig. That's what I remember.
Brilliant. Bands that have this sort of revolving door policy, right? I mean, never usually thrive and prosper, but with Atomic Rooster, I mean, it was almost like watching a top football club with big money making glamour transfers all the time. I mean, you get in Chris Farlow. Now, this isn't just your average Joe, is it? This guy was a legend, wasn't he? And he joins it in February in 72. But
that's right.
You lose one guy, and then you get a guy like this come in. Incredible.
Much against the advice of Rick and I, because when Pete French was poached by Cactus, right, we got to get a singer, and I had a guy from Manchester, the guy Bill Simpson, that I thought would be perfect. He was crazy frontman, great frontman, and but I remember that Vincent said, "No, I think I'm going to get Chris Farlow in the band." And Rick and I both went, "What?" We didn't approve, But in retrospect, he was a great choice. And the album, I think he sings great. See, the thing about Chris, he adapts to whatever situation he's in. If he's in Colosseum or is this, that, and the other. He's a bit of a musical
chameleon.
Chameleon. I didn't say whore. I said chameleon.
That's just me, Steve.
You say chameleon.
When you were growing up, Paul, who were your musical influences? I mean, what got you interested in careers in music? I mean, these guys in the 70s, were you growing up listening to Atomic Rooster? Were you growing up listening to Black Sabbath and Deep Purple, Led Zeppelin?
So first thing for me, first and foremost, my entire thing when I was a teenager was Iron Maiden. Nickel McBrain was that was it. Everybody, so I was that arrogant teenager. Everybody else was nothing. Iron Maiden were everything until 6 months later, I found I remember the first time someone giving one of my brother's friends giving me a copy of Live and Dangerous by Thin Lizzy, and I was just like, what's this? What, and my mind
sound.
Yeah, because of my generation of being a teenager, music. I've got an older brother, Chris, right, and he's into music you know, it sounds like someone's throwing up while someone shakes a stick in a bucket. It's, you know, it's seriously heavy stuff. So we'd share a room, and he'd be like, "Listen to this," and I'd be like, "No," and it just had nothing for me, because the first musical thing I ever remember listening to when I was a kid, I was like, I clearly remember, like, I like, you know, that light bulb moment.
Yeah, yeah.
The first car my dad ever had with a CD player in it, and he had a copy. It was because he'd had a problem with the car. He had a courtesy car come, and he had a Ford Galaxy, the first one with a CD player, so like, you know, mid-90s sort of thing. And he had a copy of Paul Simon's Graceland. And we were driving to it, my nan and granddad's caravan in Rill. We were going for the weekend, and we listened to Graceland all the way there. And that's the first thing I ever remember listening to, going, yes, that.
Do you remember the video for You Can Call Me Al?
I do remember the video. And me
Chevy
personally,
Chase.
I genuinely think that's the worst track on that album.
Yeah.
Like, for me, like that album is still something I listen to on a regular basis. You know.
Yeah, the bass player,
man is just like, it's
you know,
sensational. But yeah, so I say, growing up, like, having an older brother, like everyone has, like, you know, siblings or cousins that introduced them to music. So I grew up in a household. My dad is a Northern Soul and Motown fanatic.
Right.
So when we started listening to things like, you know, the heaviest thing that went on in our house when we were kids was probably T-Rex. You know, so when we started bringing bands like, you know, listen to like Maiden and Sabbath, and then my brother's into things like Dimmy Borgir and In Flames. So like the pop music of my generation, of the people I was into, are bands like Limp Bizkit and Linkin Park, Sum 41, and that kind of pop punk thing. But as soon as I discovered, say, like Lizzie, Sabbath, then bands like, and then jump from like bands to Traffic and Little Feat, and things like that, and music that grooves rather than, well, it's not so brutal, you know. It's it kind of, you know. And then the first time I ever come across Atomic Rooster was the Paradise Lost cover of Death Walks Behind You. Like, I remember, I didn't listen to it in the mid-90s, like mid-2000s. It was on a compilation CD. That was the first time. And then I was like, hang on, who's this by? And you know, you have a little search. And then you discover the album. But then again, it was a band until Adrian, because me and Adrian are teenage friends, till Adrian started playing in the band. It was a band that I was always aware of, but didn't give us enough listening to, you know, because there's just like, there's so much stuff out there. But the more, obviously, when I joined the band and you get more familiar, and then you have to listen to all the albums, you go through everything, you can see from like an outsider's point of view, you can see how influential the band have been to other bands who have come along, you know. And I've met so many musicians along the road now, and you go, so what you up to at the moment? You know, I play for such and such a body. So I'm playing for Atomic Rooster at the moment. And they're like, you play for Atomic Rooster? Like, they were like, they say, like, they used to just sit in their bedroom and spin the album over and over again. And
it's funny, you had the album, Steve, made in England. First of all, the denim sleeve that it was in, which was a departure from the norm.
Colours of denim you could get.
And it was the fact that Vincent was so enthralled by James Brown. He'd seen him live on stage, and this funk infusion worked a treat. I was listening to it again yesterday, and just before we came on today. And yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because if you listen to the earlier albums, you can always find a place in time where you can put them. But that one is, you'd be thinking, wow, is that a 80s or is it a 70s or what? It still sounds very, very of the moment. I mean, it doesn't date. It was a great album.
Tim, do you know, can I interject one thing there?
Yeah.
This is your credit. Out of all the journalists and all the broadcasters we've spoken to in the last week and in the last couple of years, you're the only one that's made that connection.
Well, James Brown?
Yeah.
Well, that was the whole story, why the music and the style of the music slightly
genuinely, you are the only one who we haven't had to have that conversation from our end. like Steve says this. Obviously, he was the man in the moment.
Yeah.
Vincent was a humongous James Brown fan,
Absolutely.
and you explain that to people, and they seem a little bit put off with it. So like credit where credit's due. That was it.
We were aware that many of the hardcore Rooster fans didn't like Made in England, but so be it. But each album was different anyway, and But since we lost the singer, or the singer went, let's put it that way, and the Rooster now in the lineup that it is, it freed us up, and we started doing tunes from Made in England, which we never could do before because the singer didn't want to do them.
Just so funny, isn't it? Because there are so many bands, if you look back to that time, that were going through this period of change. Deep Purple, for one, transitioning from Machine Head in rock, Fireball, to Burn. Gillan's gone, Coverdale is in, Glenn Hughes is in, and then all of a sudden there's this funky, soulful thing going on, and Ian Gillan, of course, is back with Purple, and they're an amazing band even now, but he won't go near any of that stuff.
Of that material, no.
But it doesn't remove the fact that it was a classic album, Burn, and one of their best. And I think now, if you get those fans that will say, "Oh, no, nothing to do with that," you get them to go back and sit down and listen to Made in England again. At the end of it, they go, "Well, maybe, I was a bit too harsh there, a bit too harsh."
The new album has got. We didn't deliberately do anything. We just wanted to make a Rooster album, and Adrian had written 5 songs, and it's turned out fantastic. We had a brilliant guy that recorded it for us, and the first thing I said to him was, and he reminds me of this. I said, I got introduced to him. This is Phil. Make it as gothic as you can, because we'd embraced this gothic thing. Well, I had personally, At one point, I was ready to jump ship because playing all the dark, depressing, death and doom laden songs was starting to go on my tits. To be quite honest. I said to my wife, "I don't know how much more of this I can take. Really, my plane's getting fucked up. I can't handle this anymore." And then, when the singer, we dropped him off at Vienna airport, and he went home immediately. Adrian took up a vocal, and it was like this big veil.
We'd never played any of the material off Made in England. We dropped, when Peter departed, we dropped him at Vienna airport. We drove to Bratislava, which is a 40-minute drive. An hour later, we were playing People You Can't Trust off the album. We had a quick blast and sound check. And we're like, okay, that's what we wanted to. Because it was always that barrier, like as you're saying, some certain members of bands and singers will not touch material that they weren't the original.
Absolutely.
Which is, for me, is kind of like ludicrous. It's like me like playing in Rooster now and going, well, I'm playing nothing off anything off the new album, because I didn't. It's mind boggling to me.
Jeff Beck famously said, singers, what are they like? And Violet saying, you know exactly what he means.
Well, Gillan always referred to Rishi Blackmore as the banjo player to me.
The genius that is Richie Blackmore.
Yeah.
So from then to now, then you've been back together and touring for a good few years. Paul, you've stepped into a band with this significant drumming heritage. I mean, we're not talking about.
Oh no!
They had a couple of players.
There's some large shoes. Yes.
Ginger, Carl, what excited you about being part of this project?
If I'm totally honest, how different everything was. Every gig, depending on what the set list is running, requires a different set of tools. It's not like playing in, say if you're playing in Skinner or Lizzie or something like that. Majority of their records all have like a solid bass line that, it's like they're the tools you need to complete that
template.
Yeah. Whereas with Rooster, every album's different, every drum is different. So learning the back catalogue is it took some time, and then to interject your own flair into it. That's what excited me the most. Playing parts by some incredible, even the guys that like Rick and Paul Hammond, who aren't quite household names like Carl, but their playing is like Rick Parnell, especially for me, is like a lot of people overlook his swing and his jazz heritage. You know what I mean? It's kind of, and it took a lot of time to get the stuff together, and then we had 2 rehearsals, did we, Steve? The first when I first joined, 2 rehearsals.
The minute Paul stepped into that drum place, I said, "I can play with this guy. This is great."
And then we were out on the road 2 days later.
And and now there's just 4 musicians on stage, and so we can live and breathe, and it's an organic thing, and we can go off at a tangent and come back. After we've painted ourselves into a corner, come back, and the audience picks up on this because we're laughing. Because, whoa, how did that happen? But we did it. But yeah, we did that. Okay, we did that. Yeah.
So tell me, the album then, Circle the Sun, why was now the right time to record an album? Because if you open the pages of the music press or you look online at interviews, everybody will tell you, it's a pointless waste of time to produce music. There's no money in it. It costs a fortune. Nobody's buying it. Nobody's interested. So why did you feel that now was a good time for you to produce what is the first album in 42, 43 years?
I think we are touring a lot in Europe, and and David Bowie said, didn't he? Said there's no money to be made from releasing records. It's like all to do with selling stuff at gigs, merchandise. So we will make all the money back that we paid for the album. But I have a deep feeling that this could really go, this album, and become a classic album.
I think that the timing for us was it'd been spoken about quite a few times, and I said something yesterday that I do stand by. And obviously, the album's now 42 years since the last album. When the band reformed in 2016, it should have been 32 years, but there were certain barriers in the way then that are no longer barriers to do with the band anymore, that allowed us to create music and not pretend it was 1972. We did this very organically. We did it in a couple of days. It was, and
we played live.
We didn't set out to go, okay, right, we need to make an album to release. We've spoken about it a few times. It'd be nice to do new music. Got some good songwriters in the band. But we didn't go and sit in a rehearsal room for 6 months to put it together. We didn't do pre-production. It was literally, as I think I said before, are you free on Wednesday? Should we make an album? Adrian's got a mate who's got a studio in Lincolnshire. It's in a forest. That sounds like fun. We've got a guy who'll produce it for us. Come on, should we go on Wednesday? And that's pretty much. And then with all the songs, some of them were pre-wrote prior to and some were. Majority all the ideas are developed in the studio. Most things are done within 4 takes. We didn't spend,
So the guitar solos, the organ solos,
everything's live. All of us in the room
done live. There's no overdubbing apart from the vocals.
And now that's different for a start, because I was going to ask you about the recording process, because so many today bands will tell you that it's file transfer. He's based on the East Coast, he's based on the West Coast, he's based in Europe, he's based over there. So the only way you can do something is I'll get up in the morning and he sent me a file overnight, and it's all file share. So to have 4 musicians in the same room and recording live is unusual today.
Yeah. And also to, I've said this before, that anyone can make a great record these days with all the tools you've got. Anyone can spend time moving stuff around, also tuning. I mean, everything's got a play, shifting stuff around so it's bang on in the pocket. Do you know what I mean? Because it becomes so overproduced that it doesn't mean anything. Well, when
I get it.
People play, which is old school, which is what we did, it's got a beating heart to it, and it swells and ebbs and flows, within a track. And I think that's a great thing. People
But
might
it
not
is
realise that.
because all of the ingredients. So when I put it on, all of the ingredients that will appeal to fans, old and new, are here. So you have the brooding Hammond on fly and die that opens. It transports you immediately back to the 1970s. But not in
It's really great for you to say that.
it is. But it's not like we're going back in the 1970s and to reproduce something that was from the 70s. It's something that's a modern produced song that has its roots based back there. And it's something of an instant classic, that, because it literally, it worms its way into your senses after a couple of plays. It's a great track to open.
Yeah, great. Oh, well, thank you. We are really pleased with it, and we're pleased with the reaction we get from audiences when we play. And did I mention this before, that people come up and go, "Man, I was right back there then." You guys are just like, because we do go off on one. It's not like a tribute prog band that everything is like, just put the CD on, really. Because this is like, even the songs off the new album, when we play them live, I may approach it slightly differently, and we, the solos are longer, or it's all a living, breathing thing, and people pick up on that.
Yeah, they do. And Adrian's vocals are perfectly suited to this sound and style. There's a lot of variation. There's light and shade. It's not like 8 tracks that all sound the same that could blend into one. Never to Lose has that. It's almost like a psychedelic 60s feel, I thought.
Yeah, swampy sort of thing, And,
what was the guy what was the reference we used for that record? What's his name, Steve?
All right, right, okay. So that track, Never to Lose, was actually the first song I ever wrote, and was on a Atomic Rooster B-side on the sessions from Made in England.
So it was on the B-side to Stand By Me.
When we were up there recording the new stuff, Adrian said to me, he said, "I've listened to that song, Never to Lose," and I immediately went into embarrassment mode. Yeah, that was the first song I ever wrote. He said, "I think we should do it." I said, "Let me work on it. So I've changed the lyrics and made it more like somebody, you said this, didn't you, Paul? That's a naive song, and Back Now is somebody that's lived a life, i.e., and I've changed the lyrics and the whole attitude, but it's done in a swampy sort of way, like a psychedelic swamp that just meanders around. It's got the song there. It's got a heavy bit in the middle, which is a slightly different heavy bit than the original version of the song, and then it goes on this swampy psychedelic journey. There's a track by Tony Joe White with some dance guys, and they did this track. And Tony Joe White's really it's just a slow, moody dance. I wouldn't say dance, but these guys, I can't remember the name, but they've got Tony Joe White guesting on this track, and he says stuff like, "You boys ain't from round these parts, are you?"
I do like this. I do like that, actually. Because it will go back to, you'll then get back into straight ahead rock, riff heavy stuff with Rebel Devil. And then one of my favorite tracks on the album was No More. And then there's Pillow, which again is completely different. And I have to say, this had something of a Pink Floyd feel to me, or that almost spoken vocal, and again, it's really dark and moody.
Well,
it's a funny thing. I'll tell you how that song started briefly. It's kind of like, when I wrote it lyrically, I thought, shit, this is like a sexual stalking song. So I backed away from that and changed it. I didn't want it to be like that particularly, but I wanted it to have that sort of like, the original Phantom of the Opera with Herbert Lom, the old Hammer House of Horror. That's But I was watching a film about the Doors. No One Here Gets Out Alive.
Right.
And there's a scene where they're in the rehearsal room, the actors, and they're running, and the Robbie Krieger characters running over. That it would be untrue. that would be and those chords are like A minor to F sharp minor, which is wrong. Music is wrong. You would have A major. So I just started strumming A minor to F minor, which are two unrelated chords, and they're the two basic chords. So that's how I started off writing the song. I was just had a guitar in my hand, watching a thing about the Doors, and I just started those two songs. But then it developed into
and then the version we have now on the album again kind of comes round for Steve had like ideas for it, and we'd spoken through it, and he'd had like a couple of rough acoustic demos, and he just didn't feel it was right. And then on the setup day for the first day of recording, Shug, the bass player in true Shug style, was late. So we in the evening he wasn't there. We were set up. We're like, what can we do? We found a drum machine, started playing around with it, and then Pillow was done. But I think we started doing it about 7:30. It was done by 9:00.
Yeah.
And it was literally, and I don't think especially when you played me the acoustic demo of it, I don't think either of us have ever dreamt it would end up in that format.
Yeah, it's cinematic.
Yeah.
It's cinematic, which is cool.
I honestly believe it belongs in a fight scene in like a TV show somewhere. Do you like they put like modernish music to things like Peaky Blinders and things like that in a fight scene? That's where it belongs for me in my head.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the tracks we have Last Night, which's got a slower jazz fusion feel to it. And then I've got to mention the last track on the album, because it finishes on a massive high. I think, albums they always used to, when we were growing up in the 70s and 80s, they'd peter out. It would be the rubbish that was put on at the end.
Yeah.
But you have Blowed Up Mind, which again is instantly memorable with this incredible groove to it. And when you've finished, all that track leaves you wanting to do is one thing, which is to go back to the beginning and play it again. So it's a great one to conclude with, and just keeps you thinking, I want a bit more of this. Let's go back and have another listen.
That's the one track at the moment I am, because there's actually two drummers on that track.
Right.
Me and the producer Phil. It was an after hours situation. We'd been drinking, and we were playing through something. We wanted, all of us, but me, him, and Adrian are into the Allman Brothers. So it was kind of like, let's play some stuff.
Yeah.
So without a click track or without any rehearsal, me and Phil played the live, and then we recorded the live track for Blow That Mind. So now playing it live, trying to sit both parts on my own, it seemed like a better idea at the time than it does now.
It's going to be great.
Yeah.
So what this is going to do then?
I don't notice it, but it's great to have two drummers on a track. It
was just great fun. Do you know what I mean? Because in the studio, like, say just as a band, we don't have any. There's no grudges or anything. It's the most friendly, like, laid back atmosphere. And like Phil, obviously he's a friend of ours, the guy who produced the record. And I know he's a drummer. He's a great drummer. And then we were just jamming at the end of the night. I think actually he was trying to buy a snare drum off me. That's why we started drinking. And then it just developed out of that an idea to have two drummers on it. And we literally, again, we just did it live in the room. Everybody played on it. Done. Over, in the can. Over and done with.
So what was it like then? You've finished the album, all the recording is done, and you get to sit and listen to the completed project in playback for the first time. Now, I mean, you're obviously aware that it's, you've had great sessions and the tracks are strong, but to be able to sit and listen to it for the first time, did it surprise you what you'd actually produced?
Well, Phil would play back. Obviously, we haven't sat down all together and listened to it back. But in the studio, Phil would play the tracks back, and we didn't have to say anything to him. Normally it's like, can you shove the bass drum? The guitar? But he just instinctively knew the best way that it should sound. And after it was mastered, because and we paid for all these processes. We paid for the recording, the studio time, the band did. And we paid for the mixing, which is more, and then mastering.
The mastering guy he's a
guy.
he's a big name, like.
And we got the artwork together. So but we got sent in my studio down there in the cabin. I listened to the whole album run through with it being mastered, and I'm like, I phoned Adrian up. I said, I think we've got. And Adrian said, we've got it. This is it. And I said, yeah, I'm really pleased. And Adrian said, me too. And to hear Adrian say that, because he's his biggest critic, isn't he? Adrian, he goes into this deep thinking mode. Like I've seen it when he was doing the vocal, he'd be like in the studio, be like, and I say, what's wrong? He said, nothing. I'm just getting in the zone. He gets to,
Adrian in the studio, Joe, we were just talking about the track Blow That Mind. He'd gone in to run the vocal, like the guide vocal for him, to test the microphone. And I'll never forget it. He was rolling a cigarette while he was doing it and singing it. And me and Sugar in the control room, and he sang it. And he come out and he said, "Is that all right?" And we were all just there going, "What do you mean? Is that okay?" And that's the take we used. It's just he was literally there licking a rolly paper, doing that, ready to go and have a smoke before and have a break. And that's just the vocal. He is an incredible musician and an incredible vocalist. And it's to watch it, like to watch him work as his friend. You sit there going, "Nah, no one should be that good at things. No one should be any good at he's incredible."
Believe me, Tim, we've travelled the length and breadth of Europe over the last 2 years, just the four of us, and we've got an Italian agent who drives us everywhere. We go from Vienna, we go to Lithuania, then we go back down to Poland, we go across to the old East Germany, we go to Belgium, and we're zigzagging. Each day we're driving sometimes 5, 6, 1,000 kilometers a day. We don't even have time to check in a hotel. We have to go straight to the gig. But there's never a cross word, and we just talk all the time, don't we?
Yeah.
We talk and just laugh
and laugh. And the other thing is, like, obviously in this band, it's kind of 4 different people from 4, all like very similar areas and not too far apart. But the amount of different music everybody is aware of, so being in the van is an utter treat. Someone's always got something new for you to listen to for inspiration. Yeah. And then obviously just before we made this record, we've been out on the road quite a while, so there was loads of stuff we were like that Tony Joe White thing. I was never aware of that until Steve brought it to the table, and now it's both of his records or something that is I have.
There's another thing. I'm back in the day when I was in Rooster, or just after, I was sharing a flat in Crouch End in North London with Rick Parnell. And one day I think I'd been doing a gig somewhere, and I came in, and our flat was a magnet for visiting musicians and all sorts of people. And the whole lounge area, we had foam rubber wedges that people would get off on. And we had a hi-fi that had headphones, but when you plugged it in, it didn't cut the speakers off, so you could still listen to. And I came in after people were tripping on LSD, as was our want, right? This is off the record, right? And I come in and Rick goes, "Here, man, we're all tripping, I go, "Yeah, but this builder, he's never tripped." "Yeah, but, he is now, he's flying, So then Rick passes me the headphones at one point. He said, check this out. And I put them on, and I'm hearing this glutinous, sounds like vats of rice pudding boiling, and the bass is going, and wow, and all this jabs. And I say, "What the fuck is this?" He goes, "This is Sly and the Family Stone new album. There's a riot going on." I tell you what, and that fucked me right up, that. And love, I'm the biggest Sly Stone fan. Anyway, so there's this clip on YouTube of Sly, God bless him, he died recently, but very recently he got together with his brother and Rose, and they're in the studio playing back "Thank You for Letting Me Be Myself Again," but and they're listening to it, and Sly is insane. He's got the hunchback, I don't know, and they're all going, "That's the way he wrote it. That's the way he read it." he gonna do what he do. He gonna do what he do. And they all start laughing. And then they go, he gonna do what he do. And they all go, we do. And I played it to the guys in the studio, Rooster, and we watched it. And so, of course,
that became our thing.
That's on the, as well as the Tony Joe White reference. He goes, he gonna do what he do. And that's
so where is the most fertile audience for you then? Because you talk about the fact you're crisscrossing Europe, the old East Germany, Poland, up into Lithuania and whatever. And often it is the old Eastern Bloc where the Uriah Heep were massive over there. So is it still those countries or those territories?
We played Lithuania, which is right up there, Is this where we get some lithium from? I'm not sure, but we played this club. It was like a gaudy,
it's called Valkyrie, and it's in Vilnius.
Vilnius,
you're talking about the other one, aren't you? In Kunis, the OAs, the big posh looking modern thing.
Posh with chandeliers and everything.
Yeah.
But someone took this girl came that was barely 17, photographer. She took photographs like you wouldn't believe. And these people went crazy, man. This crazy. And she took a series of photographs of the audience and they're all wigging out, and it's each shot of the audience is like some Fellini movie. It's just like, and this is in Vilnius in Lithuania. Or one of the places in Lithuania. Yeah, so everywhere we go, and Czech Republic, as I say, we played the festival, and Poland we play, and they love us in Poland. So it's brilliant.
The old East Europe is definitely is our happy hunting ground.
What about the US then, and the UK? Any potential dates over in the US or
the US UK? Thing? I'll answer this one very. So we had a full US and Canadian tour booked for 2022. It was all done. It was sorted, and then the singer pulled out at the last minute. Done. It was like a 6 to 8 week tour. We were going like the list of cities and towns was astronomical. And the conversation is happening at the moment. I've tried and then I'll finish it. So it got Peter, the old singer. He pulled the tour, at the last minute, with like weeks to spare. We were due to start playing a festival, Monsters in a Mash festival. We were playing, and then the tour got pulled. And then we rescheduled it, and we should be there now. But this is happy news. Adrian's wife is due to give birth.
Right.
So that got rescheduled, and so we're in the conversation at the moment with the promoters of rescheduling for 26.
You've got a UK tour.
Yeah, UK tour. So we start in Europe on the 10th or the 11th of October. We're there till the 23rd of November, and then we'll have the Christmas break. And then we start in the UK in February through into back into March. And then the conversation for the US is roughly for the springtime at some point at the moment, but we'll just have to wait and see till that, we'd love to come to the States, and the company we've been dealing with, Tone Deaf Touring, really great, great people, but it's just trying to work it out at the moment. So we'll just wait and see how we get on with that.
It's probably just spot, Paul, because we've got the new album out, and I'm a great believer in things happening not for a reason. That sounds passive, but we got the new album coming out, and so the American tour next year on the back of the new album, it would have gone.
Yeah, to be fair, obviously this is slightly off the record. When the tour was booked and before Adrian told us about Lid, it was kind of the record the idea was to have it out before then, but obviously with that and then we were just very lucky, Tim. We had actually quite a few record companies come knocking at the door, and then it was a game of who we'd like the record to go with.
It's the music is a bit on trend. There's a lot of young up and coming bands that are returning to this sound. There's one really very, very good band called De Wolf. I don't know if you ever heard.
Yeah.
Fantastic, and they are really. I mean, that's the Hammond is a massive part of their set, and they just recorded their last album down at Muscle Shoals. So that's the style of music is making inroads again. So you've got a new audience to go for with this.
So hopefully, with the new record out, and like we're enjoying, doing the publicity for it. So hopefully,
I was going to say you enjoyed this because back in your day, Steve, it would be if anybody wanted to interview you, it would be either at a gig or there would be a day in a hotel room where they walked in. Now you can access the globe. Yeah, anybody that wants to talk to you. I mean, is it something that you actually enjoy, or is it something you're like, oh Jesus Christ, here we go?
With the internet. I did get banned from the internet a couple of years ago, but I've been reinstated. This is great, isn't it?
We're very lucky in Rooster having Steve, because Steve, obviously, obviously this is your profession. Steve's great to interview. He's obviously with like. The man's lived 1,000 lives, so
that's an album title.
It is, yeah.
So we got what we got. What was the other one?
Death Row.
Death Row. if that's not a Rooster song in the making, then we got to do that.
No.
Steve Bolton and Paul Everett from Atomic Rooster. The album is available to pre-order everywhere, and as I said, it's a fantastic return to form. And that is it for today. We will be back very soon. In the meantime, go to the website, www.therockandbluesexperience.com, where you will find plenty of exclusive content, which is only available on the website. You can also interact there on Facebook and YouTube. And if you just want to listen, you can on all of the streaming providers. Thank you again for watching. Till next time, from me, Tim Cable. Bye-bye.